Hello, my name is John Rose, and in this video I'd like to take a closer look at Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And the main thing I want to do in this video is to show what happens when we don't have the most important piece of the puzzle. What happens when we don't have the knowledge of how to live? And then we go about trying to solve problems. And I've been doing this for a long time, for 26 years. I found what I believe to be the most important piece of the puzzle. And I've been out to make sure I have all the pieces. So I'm always studying people who have their version of what they think is a good story, or their solution to solve problems, like Anthony Robbins or Stephen Covey, for example. Now with Stephen Covey, he had these 7 habits of highly effective people. We'll take a look at each one of those, and I'll show you or illustrate what happens when you don't have the most important piece of the puzzle. Number 1 habit for Stephen Covey was to be proactive versus reactive. And man, I agree 1,000% with this one. I like this one more than anything. Be proactive versus reactive. If I was to explain this using my special teaching tool, where there are 3 stages of knowledge, what I'm saying, and what Covey is saying, is we want to be in the 2nd stage of knowledge on the right path, satisfying our needs so we end up in paradise. We don't want to be in the 3rd stage of knowledge on the wrong path. Is that how I got to do it for you guys? Backwards? 1st stage, 2nd stage, 3rd stage? Yes, we want to be in the 2nd stage of knowledge on the right path. We don't want to be in the 3rd stage of knowledge on the wrong path, dealing with the symptoms. Now what I've done is I've identified all the major pieces to the puzzle, and I assigned 2 piece numbers to the negative C box of problems. That's where we have 103 and 104. 103 are problems that are 100% within our control, and 104 are problems that are not 100% within our control. And what Stephen Covey is saying is we got to distinguish between these two and be proactive with piece 103, the problems that are within our control. And how do we become proactive with that? Well, we find the knowledge we need and we apply it. We get into, we become proactive. We make the right choices, the right lifestyle choices. But see, this is the problem. If you don't have the knowledge of how to live, you can't differentiate between 103 and 104. You lack the wisdom to know the difference. And this is why Stephen Covey's approach is only a downstream solution. Unlike Anthony Robbins, who found the knowledge of how to live and incorporates that into his message, where he knows and tells people we got to go upstream and downstream. So Anthony Robbins has the right message. He says to solve our problems, we got to change our beliefs and our emotions. I explained all this in a video I did yesterday if you want to know more about that, if you haven't seen it yet. But he's pointing out, look, our belief system is wrong. It's inaccurate. Got to accept that, because then what we have to do when we change our emotions, the most important thing is our food. He understands that. So when you have the most important piece of the puzzle, when you have the knowledge of how to live, you provide a solution for people because you know how important that piece of the puzzle is. And the problem with people like Stephen Covey is that he is in the same boat virtually all of us are in. We lack the knowledge of how to live. So when we go about trying to solve our problems, we can't do it, because even if we have good guidelines like he's saying, be proactive, yes, if it's within your control, but we don't know it's within our control. We lack the wisdom to know that most of the problems we have are 100% within our control. So I agree, Stephen, great idea. We got to be proactive, but we got to have that knowledge. Habit number 2, begin with the end in mind. Yes, we do. But if we're going to climb this ladder of success, we have to make sure our ladder's on the right wall. I agree. But the problem is no one has their ladder on the right wall, because no one understands the true meaning of life. And I did a video on that. Look into my YouTube channel. I'll put a link down below in the description box, where I explain that there's only one meaning in life based on where we're at. See, the meaning of life depends on where we're at, and where we're at collectively as a species is we're in Plato's cave. So the only meaning in life is to escape Plato's cave. The only wall our ladder needs to be up against is getting out of Plato's cave. If we're not getting out of Plato's cave, everything else is a distraction. And yet, all of the advice Stephen Covey is giving doesn't tell people to put the ladder on the right wall. Tony Robbins did it. you gotta make sure you eat the right food. You gotta have the knowledge of how to live, because then you won't know that most of your problems are within your control. You'll be reacting. Your idea of being proactive is having a mammogram and a colonoscopy. Your idea of being proactive is go to the doctor, let them cut it out. That's not being proactive. That's not understanding the difference between a problem within our control and outside our control. So you see how already we're getting in trouble with Stephen Covey's 7 habits. We don't have the knowledge of how to live, so we can't be proactive. We don't know that we're in Plato's cave, so we got our ladder on the wrong wall. And habit number 3, put first things first. If we don't have our ladder on the right wall, we don't know what's important. So, once again, we see what happens when we don't have the knowledge of how to live. We don't know where to put our ladder. We don't know what to think is important. We get distracted all the time. So I say this over and over and over. If we're not getting reconnected, if we're not going upstream and doing what we're supposed to do, satisfy all of our needs, virtually everything else we do is a distraction, and we have to do some downstream work. And what Covey is offering is helping people be the best they can be in hell. That's like living with lupus. No, we shouldn't have to deal with this. We got to put our ladder on the right wall, because right now our ladder is horizontal. We're not getting out of Plato's cave. As long as we put our ladder on money or whatever, that's the wrong wall. And yes, we have to find a purpose in life, and that's why I say all of us should have the same purpose in life. No one's purpose is different as long as we're in Plato's cave. We have to get out of Plato's cave, and it's got to be a collective effort, because no man is an island. The individual cannot escape the collective. As long as one person is in Plato's cave, we all have a foot in Plato's cave, so to speak. We all got to get out of this cave of ignorance so we can get back up into paradise, which is simply a place where we don't have problems that are within our control. We lack the wisdom. We can't be proactive. We can't be successful because we don't know where to put our ladders. We don't know how to put first things first because we don't know where the ladder goes. Habit 4, think win-win. Yippee, yes. I agree 100% there. Habit number 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Couldn't agree more there also. But personality has a lot to do with that. And I explained that in my video on Know Thyself, based on a personality test that's based on quantum physics. A double blue, having blue in the bottom 2 graphs, has more empathy and is able to walk in other people's shoes easier than other people because they have a desire to do so. Remember, performance is willingness times ableness. And a big piece of the puzzle is willingness. Do you want to walk in other people's shoes? Well, I'm a triple blue personality. Blue's my highest personality in every graph. Now I have 3 secondary traits. I have an imagination, I can conceptualize, but I also have empathy on a level that goes beyond intellectual. It's more emotional. Remember, in this personality test, the top graph is purely intellectual, the bottom graph is purely emotional, the middle graph is half emotion, half intellect. So when we have high blue personality traits in the bottom 2 graphs, we can walk in other people's shoes. That's why I'm so passionate. I really do feel your pain. I'm like an empath. I can't even watch someone fall when they hit their head. My head hurts. I feel it. It's not like, oh my God, I'm hurting like them, but I feel it. So seek first to understand, then to be understood. That's a blue personality word. And can we all benefit from it? Of course. Can we all do it? Might be harder, but we can still strive. Habit number 6, synergize. Now, I agree 1,000%. We got to work together. We're like all these crabs that we got to work together and get out of the hole together. But the reason why we struggle so much is we lack the sunlight energy that we're supposed to store in the nucleus of our cells, those biophotons, that faster than light sunlight energy, faster than light communication that allows us to sense we're all one with one another. So if we all had adequate biophoton levels, we wouldn't have to be told to cooperate or to love or anything else. So to synergize is really on our to-get list. It's a common mistake a lot of people make because this is pretty complicated when you try to figure out where all the pieces go. But I've been thinking about this for 26 years, so I've been wrong many times. In fact, you have to be wrong a lot of times to figure out how to make it work. And anyway, there's a to-do list and a to-get list. We need to focus on the to-do list. If we do the things we're supposed to do, get reconnected, guess what happens? We don't have to be told to love one another. We don't have to be told to cooperate and share. We don't have to be given 7 spiritual laws or 10 commandments, because all those are given. So I agree, yes, we need to synergize, but let's go upstream to make that happen. Now, the 7th habit is a really good one: sharpen the saw. And again, Covey, I agree 1,000%. This is the same thing as what I say. We got to be the best that we can be. And really, the only way we can do that in every area of life is to get reconnected. Because if we don't focus on the physical body and the fact that we are lacking coherent sunlight energy in the nucleus of our cells that makes us feel one with all another, and without it we have the wrong mentality. Without, unless we work at the base of this foundation, of this hierarchy, unless we work down here, we're going to struggle mentally and emotionally and communally. So to sharpen the saw, to be the best that you can be, it has to begin by getting reconnected. It has to be with the first of my 3-step process for most of y'all, because most of us are not willing to eat a raw vegan diet. If you can do it, fine. That's one of the 3 ways to correct 5 main mistakes. Water fast is another way not to make those mistakes, and so is juice fasting. But this is something more of us are willing to do. This is something that we can do to get everyone's attention. And once enough of us do this, and once the world wakes up and realizes we're missing this knowledge of how to live, we shouldn't make these 5 main mistakes. We should eat a raw vegan diet. Things will, this world will transform so fast once we reach the tipping point. It's mind-boggling. We can't even comprehend how this world will be right now because we're not set up for it. Obviously, we can't feed the world the right food the way it is now because the demand is not there, because the knowledge is not there. Once we get the knowledge, once enough of us wake up to this reality, we'll soon realize how important this is, and this will be our #1 priority. Put first things first, I agree. What's really important is getting reconnected. So this goes back to what I'm saying from the very beginning. If you don't have the most important piece of the puzzle, if you don't know that cooking is a mistake, if you still rationalize in your brain that it's okay to cook your food, you're under a spell, my friend. It's the hunger spell. And you're going to find a lot of people who will tell you exactly what you want to hear, because the powers that be don't want us to know about raw food, so you're going to hear study after study after study, bullshit after bullshit after bullshit about how great cooking is. It's bullshit. It didn't make us great. It's what ruined us. And the people who rule the world can't do it if we wake up to that reality. So stop relying on bullshit scientific studies done by bullshit people that don't know shit. They don't know how to live. Use your common sense. Believe only your own experience. Test an idea whose time has come. And if you're 40, 50 years old, within several months, you're going to have an aha moment. Because you're going to transform your life in a way you can't even comprehend. Younger people won't notice such a huge difference, but it is a difference. You can tell. I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand. You got to do it to understand it. I can't explain what this experience is like. I've tried over and over, and I know it just doesn't work. All I can say is when I finally went the distance and pooped out a 20-pound cesspool inside me and bumped up my biophotons, I crawled out of a rut I didn't even know I was in, and I didn't think I could take my life better on many levels. I was a happy guy. I was healthy, I thought. I was extremely physically fit as a world-class athlete, putting in 7-8 hours of exercise every day. Physically, I didn't think I could take my life to another level. Man, I took it to a whole nother level. And then it's at the base of the hierarchy. So everything else got better in ways that you can't understand until you experience it. And I was a great guy before all this started. I can see how some people might be offended, saying, how dare you tell me cooked food is evil? I eat cooked food, I'm not evil. But no man is an island. If you're disconnected, you're pulling all the rest of us down, even though you might be surviving quite well in hell. But you don't know what you're missing. None of us do. until we get out of this hole collectively. So once again, if we don't have the knowledge of how to live, we're never going to be able to offer a good solution. It's only going to be downstream, and we need to do a lot of downstream work. But if we don't go upstream, we're spinning our wheels. That's why I always say, you should never apply the art without the science. The science is upstream, the art is downstream. And if we apply the science, if we go upstream, a lot of the downstream work we think we have to do will just go away. So what's the best way to deal with it? Let's go upstream first. Let's get reconnected. Let's do what Anthony Robbins says. To solve a problem, we got to change our beliefs. Got to change our emotions. The best way to change our emotions, change what you eat. And because that's so hard, do the first of my 3-step process. Go down below in the description box below, and you'll see an interview with Dr. Anthony Roba on day 21 of a juice fast. I was coaching him back then. He was interviewed by these 2 women. You got to hear this guy talk. Watch the Deborah Duncan show, and you can see testimonials of people who did this. And then that might motivate you to go to my seminar and take the first of my 3-step process. And you know what happens when you do it. You're in for a treat.